Hello there. I'm Scotty. You're not. Happy birthday to me. In more ways than one. Yes. So, and this is for my birthday. I'm revisiting Happy Birthday to Me because I'm not particularly happy about the review I did. I don't think I did a very good job. This was 5 years ago now, so I wanted to revisit this for a while. But I figured since I kind of ran out of birthday movies to do, I figured I'd do this. So before I get into the actual movie, we got to talk about this cover. You know, it's not behind me because I'll put it there, but this cover here. Okay. So, in the original cover, it says John will never forget this or something like that. There's no character named John, and the closest that this character, it's an actor who's not in the movie, but if I had to take a guess, just based on how it looks like Rudy, but it's not anyone from the movie, and there's no John in the movie. The character who dies this way is Steve. But yeah, everybody talks about how this cover doesn't make any sense, but there's another cover. I was looking at this. That's not Ginny or Anne or any of the women in this. The only one I can think of that is close to could be Bernadette, but she's the first kill of the movie, so it makes no sense that she's sitting here. Yeah, so happy birthday to me. Released in 1981, directed by, who's his name? J. Lee Thompson. It's a Canadian movie, and this movie is confusing in more ways than one, not only the ending. There are a few things that happen that confuse the hell out of me. Alright, so like most of my revisited reviews, these are meant to be a second viewing, a second review of something I've already reviewed. So twists abound. You know, I spoilers. I'm not gonna go. I'll go in order of the movie, but I'm not gonna act as if I'll spoil things because I need to talk about certain things, and it's almost right away. Almost. So we start. This is a confusing opening just for me because I'm trying to figure out how this works. So we start off, we get the titles, and then we see Bernadette, who has a short conversation with their headmistress. She's like, Bernadette O'Hara, don't, something. She's yelling at her about responsibility or something. So this woman, Bernadette, she walks from her apartment through I think she's through some bushes, and then all the way across the street, down a little bit, to a parking lot where her car is. Why doesn't she park close? And by the time she gets in there, this killer is waiting for her, because as soon as she gets in, she goes to start the car, and some black gloved hands grab her and start choking her. She's able to keep the door open and get out, but then, and it's very weird. So she doesn't see who it is that's choking her, but then the person comes back around and she's like, "Oh, it's you." So by the way, there are a few moments in this movie. So we never see the killer's face. It's a silent killer, someone whose face is off camera all the time. But they see who it is. And it's someone they know, but every single time, instead of saying that person's name, every single one of them goes, "Oh, it's you. Oh, it's you." Not, "Oh, blank, it's you." No. It's, "Oh, it's you." And that's unrealistic as hell. Because you feel like you would say the person's name, right? But I digress. So she ends up getting her throat slit with a straight razor. You know that they do for shaving, especially back then. Straight razor, slit her throat. The effects were supposed to be gorier, Like, I was reading and hearing stuff about how the director was throwing around buckets of blood, and I'm like, where? The only time we see a lot of blood is on Ginny's closet door later. Apparently the MPAA had a few problems. Of course they did. They did the same thing to My Bloody Valentine the same year. With a twist, which I would have already recovered again, actually. I did this one first because it was on Tubi and I can get that done, watch it and work and stuff. So then here is my first issue as someone who's seen this movie already and knows who was supposed to be the killer and who ends up being the killer. So, spoilers for everything else from this point, okay? Out of order, whatever. We get to this in the Topless Lady or whatever it's called. I don't know what it's called. Topless Woman? Something. Where this group, the top 10 of this prep school, this academy, which, by the way, first question, how old are they supposed to be? Are they supposed to be teenagers? Because they're publicly drinking beer. I don't know if Canada has a thing, and you have to be at least 18. Maybe they're all 18 and that's legal for them to drink beer, maybe. I don't know, but it's strange. Because they're going to school after this, and I'm just like, if they were college students, but they're not in dorms, they're in their own houses, and it's confusing. So this is where the most confusing part happens if you're trying to go with the ending of this movie that was a rewrite. So, spoiler alert. It's revealed at the end that the killer is Anne, who has disguised herself as Ginny to commit the murders of her friends as revenge because Ginny is her half-sister. Ginny's mom had an affair with Anne's dad and was paid off to keep it hush-hush, which makes sense. Some people get this backwards. James A. Janice, who in his kill count said that Anne was the child of the affair, and that because her mom left when she found out the truth. But if Anne was the child, wouldn't she already know? Because she didn't have the baby. So, or I guess he could have lied and said, oh, it's an adoption. We're adopting this child. No. It's the other way around. Ginny is the love child of Anne's dad and her mom. So, yeah. And apparently Ginny's dad must have not have known about that. Although, seeing as this was the stuff that was reshot, whatever her dad is doing throughout the film makes no difference. You know. The reason I've spoiled that is because when keeping in mind that that in this new version of the movie, Anne is supposed to be the killer, when we cut to this inn, Anne is already there. And they're talking about how Bernadette is late just as Ginny and Alfred walk in. And to me, it makes sense that Ginny's just walking in because in the actual version of the film, the original cut, she was the one that committed the murder. But it's supposed to be Anne, and she's already there. And I'm watching this on my phone, I'm going, wait a minute. That, little extra filming, a few more reshoots could have changed, maybe. Because they do good later when someone is killed and then both Ginny and Anne come walking in late. That would work. Maybe switch it. Maybe they're always running late. Have Alfred already there and the two girls are always running late. Could have just reshot a little bit like you did the ending. But you just reshot the ending and nothing else, so it makes no sense. Anyway, so this scene, featuring the late, great Jack Warden in a cameo as the great Grand Poobah, where they keep singing there was 100 bottles of beer on the wall with the wrong lyrics. So I always hear it wrong. Okay, so they go, like, the only one I've heard it sang right is on Kenan and Kel. Kel does a million bottles of orange soda on the wall. But they sing it 100 bottles of beer on the wall, 100 bottles of beer. If one of the bottles should happen to fall, 99 bottles of beer on the wall. Now it rhymes, but the actual lyrics I've always heard is 100 bottles of beer on the wall, 100 bottles of beer. Take one down, pass it around, 99 bottles of beer on the wall. Those are the lyrics I've always heard. You know? I guess the other version does make a little more sense. But anyway, because, was it Greg, I think it is, gets all upset at this dude. He goes off on him, and then Rudy buys him a new drink and puts Albert's rat in it. And that causes them to... Everyone gets kicked out, I think, and then they decide to do a game where they have to race to see who could jump the bridge before the thing goes up too high. And this is what triggers Ginny's memory. It's confusing because you don't know. This feels like it's a continuation of something. Like, there's movies that do that, but this, more than anything, feels like a story we should have already seen. Like, it should have started with the car accident. You know? But here, she jumps, and she's all, you know, they're getting ready to jump. And Ginny's freaking out, no, no, no. And as they go to jump, she yells, "Mother!" Which we don't know what that means yet. But as they land inside, Ginny freaks out and runs towards home. Where she ends up at her mom's grave, which is not in a regular cemetery, but buried somewhere on their property, I guess. I don't know. So I want to keep in mind that as I'm going through this, Ginny was supposed to be the original killer because a lot of this movie points to that. Because something will happen with Ginny and one of her friends, and in the very next scene, that friend gets killed. And so once you're watching, you're catching on, okay. Until they just straight up reveal it, which, knowing the original ending, makes sense. Although I'm not a fan of either ending, to be honest. I always thought, I was thinking about it, the dad makes sense. Or the doctor. She's talking to her shrink, played by Pa Kent from the original Superman the movie. Glenn Ford, who I guess was a little wee too drunk, had too many martinis, because he was causing issues and getting in arguments with the director of whom he recommended for the movie, by the way, having some issues. So yeah, that was a little behind the scenes there. So she's talking to her shrink about it. And there is one point, it's not in this scene, but it's a later scene where he says, "I'll do anything to protect you." And that got me thinking, why isn't he the killer? It makes sense, right? It makes sense. She's having these blackouts, which aren't done enough, to be honest. Those are part of the other story where it's not just Ginny who's doing it, which, no, she's having blackouts. This is where I don't like it. She's having blackouts because it's not just Ginny doing it. It's the spirit of her dead mother taking over Ginny's body to commit the murders to take out the members of the top 10. Not only does it not make sense for a ghost to do it, there shouldn't be any supernatural presence in this, but also, she's taking out the top 10. At least one of the characters that is killed, Etienne, wasn't around 4 years earlier. He's a transfer student from France, which is not necessary because they're in Canada. but the movie's set in Massachusetts for some reason. If they just said it in Canada, he could be a French Canadian. But they didn't do that, so they have to make him foreign. Like, to me, Canadian isn't foreign because it's in the same continent as us. So, like, he's actually French. And, like, as I'm watching this final act where they're going around the table, and I'm like, oh yeah, Etienne. His death does not make sense. Also, at least 3 other members of the top 10 get out scot-free. Rudy and his girlfriend Maggie, or Steve's girlfriend Maggie, Rudy and Maggie, his girlfriend Maggie, are unaccounted for in the end. And Amelia, her original death was so gruesome that she got chopped with an axe. They couldn't figure a way around it, so instead they just inserted her later in a scene where the dad is running and finds her standing in the rain with a present, which also makes no sense because, as was implied by the conversation Ginny has with her dad, nobody really knew about. There was no party, there was no plan. Maybe it's supposedly she was supposed to have found out about it and brought her a present. I don't know, but those 3 are unaccounted for. Amelia saw what happened and was not killed. All you had to do is reshoot the axe coming, reshoot the kill and just have the killer swing the axe and it cuts. And then just have her body in there. But no. I'm jumping around and I know I am. Etienne's kill is the next one though, because there's a big old spread of nothing after Bernadette, where it's just there's nothing, and then Etienne is the next one. He's somehow for some reason wearing a scarf while fixing his bike, and then the killer walks in and sticks the scarf in the bike, and it pulls him closer to the thing, and his head gets caught in the motor spokes. And I'm just like, the scarf would come off first, because he barely had it on his neck. It's not that tight. The scarf would just come unfurled. But whatever. It's not like he had a rope around his neck and it pulled him in there. It's a scarf. The scarf would come undone. It's fine. There's another one, Greg's death, which is pretty. It's the most building up the tension, because he's there, he's lifting the weights, and he's like, Amelia? Oh, hey, it's you. Yeah, he does that. And he's lifting the weights. Maybe not as easy as I'm doing because nothing there, but he's like, how about you put 5 more on there, each side? Nah. Put another one. Yeah. And then they do 2 more in each, which is then he lifts up and they move the killer, which, pulls it back. He's unable to. And so then she drops one on his nuts, which causes him to drop the one he has. And it hits his neck, blood spurts. But common sense would dictate he would just sit up. Because, as he goes to drop it, sure, it's heavy, it's going to fall, but he could roll out of the way very quickly, even with the weight on his nuts. But no, he's dead. Yeah. And so we find out that after this accident, she had to have brain surgery, and she doesn't remember everything, and she's starting to get her memories back. And that's what's supposed to lead to the whole dead mom freaking out sort of thing. But, Or another one. What if it was Anne's dad doing the killing? I don't know. But it's an idea. Probably not the best one, but anyway. So she starts having these flashes, memory flashes. What happened? We see a car accident, and we see her having the surgery. We don't know exactly what caused it, yet, but later we do, as we find out that she had a party that she invited the top 10 of the school to. By the way, this is supposed to be 4 years earlier, and she looks the same age. They couldn't hire a younger actress. No, the mom was drinking, and the dad was out of town because he always goes out of town, I guess. Now, this is unintentional, but it does make sense with the new ending. Whereas he would want to be, if he knows Jenny's not his, so he's deliberately going out of town for her birthday because he's not her father, and that wants nothing to do with it. I don't know, but technically, though, if he's raising her, then he is her father by definition. It's whoever's raising you, right? Stepfather, whatever. I don't know. But again, that's not what was intended. It's just, he's a deadbeat dad, I guess. And so, drunkenly, when he finds out that Ann Thomerson is having a party that night, she drunkenly drives her and Ginny. I forgot her name. By the way, so they're constantly calling her Virginia, which I'm making stuff. Yes, Virginia. That is a Santa Claus. And she's screaming at the fence, and this guy comes out and then makes the implication about what had happened. She was paid off. So I'm assuming this was shot afterwards to imply the affair. Although they could have still had the affair, but no child came from it, I guess. I don't know. But they could have reshot something. I don't know. So because she gets rejected, she drives off. They both drive off. She's drunk. They have a car accident. That's what happens. So, yeah. It took 4 years for her brain to sort of repair. Because one of the producers saw a thing about how, they even talk about it in the movie, about how they can get Brog's legs to move again with electricity. I think this salamander was the reasoning for that. But so that they did the same kind of therapy to restore her brain, so her memory, whatever, and that's what's happening throughout the movie. All right, sure. Arthur's the next one. Well, there's a whole thing with her and Rudy in the clock tower that's not really needed. By the way, she does get around, because, she flirts with Arthur, and at certain points, it's almost like they're together, but then she's with Rudy, and then later she's, taken off with Steve to her house. I know half of that is not her, technically, but, yeah. In the context of what the original film was supposed to be, it is her. So it's supposed to be implied that she like her mom, was also sleeping around and stuff. But wasn't that only for this ending? Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say what was in the original cut and what was not, besides the alternate ending. But Arthur gets killed off. And then we get the scene that scene, but not really, where it's the shish kebab. She stabs Steve, not that guy John, who's not in the movie, who resembles Rudy, but not really, because Rudy doesn't die. And then it's framed as if she dreamt it all, because she wakes up, she doesn't remember anything, and then she's taking a shower, and then she has that flashback I mentioned, and then when she comes to, she finds Anne's dead body floating in the bathtub. And she calls her shrink, who comes to look at it and finds the body's not there. And then he gets killed after she takes off, and then she comes back and she kills him. And then the dad comes home, And this is where we get the ending where he finds them all set up in the little room for her birthday, singing "Happy Birthday to Me." And I'm thinking this was a part of the original ending. It was supposed to end with her killing her dad and then ending it here. But then there's more where it's revealed that it's actually Anne, like I said, and she's doing it as revenge on her sister for what happened. Yeah. And like I said, Rudy and Maggie are not there, and Amelia, we see her, the dad finds her standing in the rain in shock for some reason. And then Anne is wearing what looks like a very flimsy mask of Ginny's, but then, like, it looked just like her, and she tries to explain why, oh, Steve was so stoned, he didn't realize it wasn't you, but, like, we literally just saw the mask, and it okay, it's supposed to be the mask, like, the mask that, if it was the mask that she was actually wearing, yeah, no one would believe it, but, like, I don't know, we keep being presented, for the kills that we see the person for, it's Ginny, as it was supposed to be. So she tries to kill Ginny, make it look like a suicide, and then I just found a problem with your little thing here, Anne. So anyway, but Ginny is able to fight back and stabs Anne just as the cops show up and is like, "What have you done?" And then you hear Ginny singing "Happy Birthday to Me," but I rewound it and her lips aren't moving. It's audio from earlier. I don't know. Here's the hang-up with it being Anne, though. Earlier on in the film, the police show up to talk to Ginny, and David, the doctor, is there, and he says, "We're investigating the disappearance of Anne Thomerson. We were told that this is the last place she was supposed to be, but it's the same day, so I don't know. Seems like it's the same day. Maybe more days have, because it was Saturday. Maybe another day has passed. Who knows?" So, how is Anne supposed to explain if she got away with this, right? How is she supposed to explain where she was, right? I'm just saying, because they're looking for her. How's she going to explain where she was, you know? "Oh, you were reported missing. What happened?" Maybe she ties herself up and throws herself in a closet so that when they found the body, she's, you know. But how would you explain then why Ginny didn't kill her? I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out her plan here in this reshot ending. It's fine. And apparently, just to explain one more thing, apparently the idea of it being, because the studio saw the dailies and didn't like the ending. They said that they thought that Melissa Sue Anderson was too nice of a character for this to happen to. So they tried to figure out another ending, and it was during one of the daily takes, which the actress who played and made like a dirty look or something at the director, and they liked that look, so they made her they ended up making her the killer, even though her death scene had already been shot. But, you know. Here's an ending for you. So let's say we're going with this that it was Anne the entire time. She goes to stab Ginny. In this version, Ginny is actually tied down, so can't move her arms. When she goes to stab her, Rudy jumps in and stops her. He gets cut but not killed. And she goes to stab him, but Ginny is able to get free because Maggie is also there and sneaks behind and unties her. Ginny jumps on her, there's a struggle, and in the struggle, Ginny kills Anne. It incorporates the other two that weren't there. I'm just saying, because they just disappeared. I don't know. Or maybe Amelia, who would still be standing out in the rain, sees what's going on and tries to interfere. I don't know. I'll give this a high middle of the road. I definitely had a better experience with it this time. Didn't care for it last time. It's okay. This movie's okay. For early 80s horror, it's okay. So, what are your thoughts on Happy Birthday to Me? And as always, like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. I'm Sky, and I'll see you in the next one.